we are in Philadelphia in front of the Art Museum where Sylvester Stallone did his famous Rocky scene. This is the beginning of our bike ride to Valley Forge.
Many people still find this path convenient for walking, cycling, or inline skating. What we try to do with this series is put those earlier events in context so that as we ride, we can gain an appreciation for the history that is all around us. There were many events that occurred leading up to the Revolutionary War. Taxation without representation was brought up by James Otis in 1764. The Stamp Act was imposed by the British in 1765 and infuriated the colonists.
And longest fire. Good day, Mr. Mason, sir.
Good day to you, sir, and how are you?
George Mason, in May of 1769, sent resolutions to the Virginia House of Burgesses outlining various grievances.
We are stuck with tyranny. We are rapidly reaching that point now. It has always been that we had the rights of Englishmen. We have the rights of Englishmen today as we did when we came over here and received it in our charters, both for the charter of the Virginia Company and in New England for the charter of the Plymouth Company. These rights include the right to represent where our money will go. Since Edward III, we've had that right. We had that right with James, we have that right with Charles, and we will have that right with George III. And to turn around and decide that now they will simply tax and use that money to pay for our governor, to pay for our tax collectors, to pay for our judges, who will have only to serve for the good behavior, their good behavior, as warranted by the governor, who will now be paid by the crown with our money. Indeed, sir, we are subject to tyranny.
Although George Mason was in Virginia, there were significant events in New England which contributed to the Revolution. The Boston Massacre took place in 1770. A few years later, the Boston Tea Party occurred in 1773. The First Continental Congress met in Philadelphia in 1774. Tensions were definitely escalating. By 1775, the British government had declared the colonies to be in rebellion. Please notice, this was even before the Declaration of Independence. In 1775, some other important events took place. For that, we interrupt our ride in Philadelphia to cycle along an important trail near Boston,
Massachusetts.
On April 18th, British soldiers began marching toward Lexington and Concord. It was that night that Paul Revere made his famous ride to warn Sam Adams and John Hancock they might be captured. At dawn the next morning, the revolution began with the shot heard round the world. The British continued in their traditional manner, but they were no match for the colonists.
Keep walking!
As the Minutemen heard the gunfire, they rallied together in ever-increasing numbers.
Pushing them back to Boston. We've got more men coming in every minute. Coming from every town and village.
Shoot and run. Don't stick around.
One particular engagement took place at Hartley's Tavern. The British were pursuing the rebellious colonists, but little did they know it was a trap. The colonists waited for just the right moment, and then
It's only 12.5 miles to the Boston Harbor from this bike trail.
the British were driven back to Boston in defeat.
As we go, different companies can take points.
The war had definitely begun.
In 1774, the First Continental Congress met right here. They discussed something called the Suffolk Resolves, which were brought here to Philadelphia by Paul Revere.
Okay.
Now you must understand that at the time there was no thought of violence or breaking away from the British Crown. We were upset because our rights had been violated. They consider us to be British subjects here in the colonies, but they give us not the same rights as a British subject. After all, to tax us, it is not unfair for us to be taxed, but without consulting the colonial legislature. This is against the very British Constitution, sir. Well, they met and they leveled their grievances in a document called the Olive Branch Petition, which was sent to King George III. He ignored the document completely, did not even give us an answer. The good king did send ships over and blockaded the port. This, of course, escalated until finally it led to war.